What's up, everybody? It's Parker's Plays here, and today we're doing a tier list. We're doing a tier list over the Star Wars movies. I've always been a Star Wars fan ever since I was a kid, and especially with The Mandalorian, that season 2 just came out. I really got that Star Wars feeling in me right now. So I know I need to check out the other Star Wars TV shows like Clone Wars and Rebels, but I'll get to those at some point. But for now, we're going with the movies. So to start, we're going to start just in order. So the first one, Phantom Menace. Now this was the first Star Wars film I actually saw in theaters, so it's kind of got a special place in my heart. But that doesn't give it a free pass from all the things that I need to talk about. Everyone already knows and hates Jar Jar, so I'm not even going to go into that. One thing about this movie is that it seems very political. In the politics of the galaxy with the Trade Federation and the Jedi Order, all of their stuff. It seems like the movie focuses a lot on those aspects and then just throws in some really cool visual moments to keep you awake. For example, pod racing is epic. Like, that is definitely one of the highlights of the film for me, especially as a little kid when I saw it in the theaters. Seeing Sebulba, seeing Anakin fighting at the very end, and it was just really exciting. It's one of the first exciting things I got to experience as a kid in the theaters. So that was really cool. The next, I would probably say, is the lightsaber duel between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon. That was just fantastic. Excellent choreography, excellent stunt work. They just did a great job selling it and making lightsaber fights look really, really cool. Really, really awesome. And then the moments where they were in space, either, escaping the blockade, and just all the spaceship moments were really, really cool. I feel like they always do a really good job with that in the Star Wars movies. But aside from that, there's midi-chlorians, which they haven't really talked about ever again, and have never really made any kind of impact on any of the movies after that. So there's also just a couple of, just really weird moments, but I'll grant it a rank of C. Not quite the rank of Master, not yet. Next is Attack of the Clones. So this is just another prequel that was mildly doomed by poor writing and just average special effects. This was kind of around the turning point where I think special effects were getting better. So they were still kind of relying on maybe some older special effects and everything. So some of them didn't look quite as good, especially there's that scene on Naboo when Anakin and Padme are eating, and Anakin force pushes the pear over to her, and she takes the fork and then she starts eating it and cutting it, and it just looks so awkward. But and speaking of awkward, the romance between Anakin and Padme, it's just so uncomfortable to watch. Their romance just feels so forced and rushed, and it doesn't really feel like, it's weird seeing them get married at the end of the movie. But I feel like it takes until Revenge of the Sith before their romance makes sense to me. But anyway, it was really cool seeing Jango Fett and the origin of Boba Fett. Basically, I think that gave it a little bit of a nod back to Episode 5 and the introduction of Boba Fett and everything. Also, Count Dooku, I thought he was a great villain. I think he did a great job. Just being an overall awesome villain. I like his curved lightsaber. It's different than every other lightsaber that you ever see. But I kind of wish he had more of an introductory backstory, rather than Emperor going, or Darth Sidious going, "Here's my new apprentice. Here he is. Look at him." Then the climax of the film with the Jedi battle and the introduction of all the clones. I thought that was just a really good ending. It gave it really a good sense of finality. And as well as the beast battle that Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme had to deal with. That was really, really cool. And then in combination with that, the seeing Yoda fight for the first time with the lightsaber, that was really, really awesome. You never really think about Yoda being, the super old ancient master and then fighting with a lightsaber. You think about him being just an old guy, just being there. Walking with his cane, and especially for the people that watched Empire Strikes Back, and seeing him in that kind of role, just seeing him as a younger version of himself and more agile and spry. That's really really cool to watch that. But basically, it had some good moments, but it was kind of overshadowed by some of the awkwardness and the weird writing that was put in there. So I think Attack of the Clones is also probably a C tier, but I think better than Phantom Menace. So I'll put it right there. All right, next up is Revenge of the Sith. Now, this one for me is kind of a sleeper pick. I actually really really like this movie. Um, Had some great visuals, like the ending battle on Mustafar. Um, Actually watching Anakin, climbing through the dirt after being basically killed for another time. That was really, really awesome to watch. Um, some also really, really great lightsaber battles with Yoda and the Emperor, Anakin and Obi-Wan. Both of those fights were just awesome to watch. They were great quality, great. It was great. And the Order 66, it was honestly kind of heartbreaking watching Anakin go into the temple and ignite the lightsaber in front of all the kids, and they're like, "Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?" And then they just get killed. I'm glad it's very good that they didn't show that happen, because that probably would have been a problem. but but yeah, like watching Anakin struggle and go through all of the heartbreak and hardships that he was facing from the Jedi Council, basically refusing him the rank of master and all that nonsense. Just basically going back into the politics of everything. It really sucks that it was hard to watch Anakin struggle so much and then eventually just become the villain. It's a really cool way to show that though. This also has some of the memeable moments of the series. For example, Anakin, I have the high ground. I loved you, Anakin. You were my brother. Those kind of moments, and at the very end with no. Those are some of the great memeable moments of the Star Wars franchise. But overall, I thought it was a great film. It really shows the struggle and the shifting power of the galaxy from the Jedi Order, which some can say it's a little corrupt, to the Empire, which is definitely corrupt. So one corrupt system going into the next. It was really really cool. So for me, Revenge of the Sith, that's an A tier. I like it a lot. All right, next up is Solo. So say what you will about the movie, I thought it was really fun to watch. I had a good time watching the crazy antics that Han Solo gets himself into, and weaseling his way out, and doing what he does best, talking his way out of any situation that could go bad for him. Seeing someone that isn't Harrison Ford play the role of Han Solo is basically asking to be crucified. But the actor Alden Ehrenreich, I'm trying to read that, and looks very, hope I pronounce it right. He did a great job. I thought he did a great job filling in. He was given a tough role, but I think he pulled it off pretty well. And just watching Han and Chewie meet for the first time through the means of the Empire, I thought it was a really interesting backstory. And I feel like it gave Han a better reason to fight off the Empire in the later movies. For example, like when he comes back in A New Hope and everything, and he proves that he's not just a scoundrel that's in it for the money, but he actually is there to help save the galaxy. I also really enjoyed seeing Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. Thought he did a great job adding charisma, and it's just the next level to that role, giving him another younger appearance for everybody to see. As well, his relationship with his droid and how she basically becomes the Millennium Falcon. I think that really helps explain the reason why Lando loves the ship and still refers to it as his own. So for me, I think Solo is definitely a B tier movie. It's definitely got some good elements in it, and it's a fun watch. It's definitely a fun watch. Okay, next up is Rogue One. Now, Rogue One, great movie. Absolutely great movie. Probably one of the best of the Star Wars franchise, for sure. Had great visuals. It was a darker story. Basically talking about how the Empire has already started, and this is right in the thick of it all, and basically the doom and gloom of the Empire with all of the um, basically all the other citizens of the galaxy just dealing with the Empire. Um, and it's really cool that it leads directly into New Hope at the very end, which I'll talk about that in just a sec. Um, it's got that tragic ending, which gives it a way different feel than the other Star Wars movies, I think. And one thing I have to talk about was the Darth Vader destruction. I think that was an incredible showcase of his power and anger, and he was just going through it. He was just crushing everybody in his path in the most amazing way possible. Like, you honestly don't really see Darth Vader do that kind of stuff in any of the other movies. So it was really, really great to watch Darth Vader, like, actually, fight everybody off all by himself, too. Like, he had no help. There were no stormtroopers. And just the way they first show Darth Vader, he's standing in the hallway, the red lightsaber with the fog, and that's all you see. It was just a great way to show him and introduce him back in the film. I had a really, really good time watching that part. Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor, I thought they were great leading characters in the film. They start off as loners in the galaxy and doing their own thing, and then they end up teaming up to bring about the beginning of the destruction of the Empire. So I thought that was a really, really interesting way to go about with two characters that don't really serve a purpose for the galaxy otherwise than bringing out the beginning of the destruction. I thought that was a really, really cool thing to go. Really cool plot device. One other thing, I really like the idea that you don't have to be a Jedi to be Force sensitive, and that you can have that connection with the universe. Because there's that blind character, I can't remember his name or anything like that, but he was a skilled fighter, and he was always saying, "I'm one with the Force is one with me." I think that was a really, really, it was a really positive influence in the fact that the Jedi aren't the only people that are Force sensitive, and there are more people that can use the Force and basically harness that kind of energy and really feel that connection to the universe. I thought that was a really, really just an overall really positive way of spinning the Force. And one thing about this movie that stands out to me is that it's basically a doomed project from the beginning. None of these characters come back except from, Darth Vader, but everybody kind of knows that this is like a suicide mission. You go into it thinking, you have hope for these characters that they'll survive or just accomplish their goal. But, they accomplish their goal, but at the cost of everybody at that base being destroyed. So, it really is due to their sacrifice that everybody in the Star Wars universe was able to carry on. So, I thought that was really, really cool. Rogue One, this is definitely an S tier. Definitely an S tier. One of the best films in the whole Star Wars franchise, for sure. All right, next up is A New Hope. This is the film that started it all. Yeah, you can't really go wrong with watching A New Hope. It's kind of weird that there's the, it came out in the 70s, but it still holds up today with the cast and the dialogue and everything. You can kind of tell that it's like a 70s movie with some of the, with the effects. And that's why I think that Lucasfilm tried to add those CGI effects later on and, give it some updates and everything like that with Jabba the Hutt on Mos Eisley and all the other creatures that you see there and everything. But, it's fine. I get it. They just kind of wanted to update it. It makes sense. But, the lightsaber duel with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, that's kind of lackluster. They were just kind of like, they're just like poking each other with it, but they had the cool sound effects. So I think that makes up for it. And then the Death Star trench run, that definitely makes up for it. That was really just a fun way to go about, the climax of the film, and you give Luke that chance to be the hero, and it really just was a great way to end the movie. And then there's all those other, things like additions and edits to the film, like Han shot first, which I think Han shot first. He's definitely one of those kind of guys that he's not necessarily, he's like an anti-hero. He's not necessarily like the good guy, but he's also not necessarily like the bad guy. He's just kind of in it for himself, which I do think that, even though he does come back and help save the galaxy or whatever, I still think he's kind of like that scoundrel, that scruffy-headed nerf herder, as Leia referred to him. But so New Hope, I think that's definitely an A tier. I think it's a solid movie through and through. You can't go wrong with it. All right, next up, Empire Strikes Back. Now, Empire Strikes Back, there's not really much to say about it other than it was just a quality movie. It was really cool how it takes it's the best movie plot twist of all time, basically, for the time that it came out. It was just such a mind blower that Luke is fighting his father and you never know it the whole time. And it's a great middle of the original trilogy. Luke comes off this big win against the Empire and Darth Vader and everything, destroying the Death Star, all that kind of stuff. And then once he trains with Yoda, he finds out like he gets super cocky and overconfident in his abilities, which he kind of like, hints back to whenever he fights the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. But he gets overconfidence. His overconfidence becomes his weakness. And so when he goes to fight Vader, he becomes the loser. He's the loser overall. And it really just shows that he's being kind of immature about things. And even though he had just, come off the big victory, he finds out that Vader was his father. Then he gets his arm cut off, and then he basically just falls through a trash chute in a flying city. That's got to be a really big letdown for him, coming off of that victory and everything. Also, Han Solo getting taken away and frozen in carbonite. I thought all that stuff was a great cliffhanger. It leads to a really powerful conclusion in The Return of the Jedi. So Empire Strikes Back, that's another S tier for me. All right, Return of the Jedi. So this is a great conclusion to the original trilogy. There's a lot of action at the beginning of the film with the settings, and the settings change a lot throughout the film too, which is really cool. You get to see the Mos Eisley gangster hang out with Jabba the Hutt, and Princess Leia comes back to save Han Solo and everything, and so does Luke, and it's a great way to really start the last film, the last film, and so like the whole gangster hideout thing in Mos Eisley was really, really cool. Kitty sneeze. Hello. Did you sneeze on? Oh my goodness, sneezing on stuff. Okay. Anyway. So, where was I? So we have the different settings. We've got the gangster hideout. We got the forest on Endor. And then we got the second Death Star. All that stuff was really cool. But it's kind of weird that they had to reuse the Death Star idea. But it makes sense because, it's recognizable. And it was a successful formula in the first film. A New Hope. The Ewoks were cute, and it was cool how C-3PO was their deity, but I don't know if it was kind of, they were nice that they helped out in the final fight. And I also really like the developed relationship between Han and Leia. It really feels like they finally got things figured out, and they were able to move on from there. And I think it sold really well for the movie. One thing is, I really wish the Emperor did more. Aside from just telling Luke to, be bad and join the dark side. He just had to get angry and stuff like that. I just wish that he had more of more things he could have done with either with the Force or, just some kind of evil powers. He did some lightning. He pumped out some lightning in the film, but that's really about all he did. And then he just kind of told them, watch, I was ready for all of your friends, and then kills them all, so whatever. And obviously this was added later, but in the Revenge of the Sith, you watch Yoda and the Emperor go at it in this really crazy lightsaber duel. So you know he's capable of it. So I feel like there could have been more, but it is what it is. Return of the Jedi, I think that's a solid A tier. Okay, next up, The Force Awakens. Now, I thought The Force Awakens was a fun watch for the most part. It's a solid reboot for the Star Wars franchise. The franchise went through this little gap period of time. It was like a few years right before Disney bought it. So I think Kylo Ren was a very quality villain, and he really helps sell the entirety of the sequel trilogy. What I don't really necessarily like is the nearly point for point rehash of A New Hope's plot. Like, this is pretty much exactly how it goes. Random person on a desert planet finds a way off the planet and discovers they are force sensitive, fights a robed character with a voice changing mask, and they destroy a space station equipped with deadly lasers. Those are kind of exactly the same. I do like Finn. I know some people have some mixed opinions about Finn, but it was really interesting that he was a deserter of the First Order, and I really like that his character was able to escape and fight for himself and live out his life rather than being just a First Order puppet the whole time. So that was really cool. I also really liked BB-8. I know BB-8 was just a cute little droid, and it was really fun. So, but other than that, Force Awakens was okay. Kind of, it was okay. I think that's a pretty good B tier movie. All right, next up is The Last Jedi, which The Last Jedi, I got a lot to say. It's possibly my least favorite movie of all time. It felt like this movie accomplished nothing plot-wise. I wish the inner struggles between Admiral Holdo and Poe Dameron were they were just unnecessary. Like, they didn't accomplish anything. They just didn't talk to each other. Poe kept asking, "What's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan?" And she was just saying, "Go away. And then removes his rank. Get out of here." So obviously he's pretty upset about that. So why couldn't they just talk? Like, even if she suspected people to be traitors amongst them, telling them, where their light speed traveling to, they still could have just talked. Or, she could have just said, "Just trust me," or just something to be reassuring to Poe. It really frustrates me as a viewer to see how their lack of communication failed them. I really also just can't get over the whole Mary Poppins thing that happened with Leia. She gets blasted into the vacuum of space, and then she's just floating there. Her eyes are closed. You think she's dead, which, obviously with the passing of Carrie Fisher, they were going to have to write her out of the show, like the story at some point, you'd think. And I thought that was how they were going to do it. I thought that would have been a perfect way to, say her character, exit her character from the show or from the movie. But then she floats back like Mary Poppins with her force sensitivity. And I just don't. I was so bogus. It was at that moment that I knew I couldn't take this movie seriously for the rest of it. That just really bothered me. One other thing is I really wish that Luke wasn't just a washed up Jedi, and he got scared after his one mistake that he made in the temple, his new Jedi temple. It's really sad that he was an accomplished Jedi and tossed everything aside and became a weak character until the very end of the movie when he kind of redeems himself and force projects his body onto the planet in the final battle and everything. I thought that was at least something redeeming about him, but otherwise it was really sad to see Luke Skywalker, the character that they were fighting to find and, scouring across the galaxy to figure out where he was, all for him to take the lightsaber, and that was disappointing. And then I also was just disappointed in the whole Casino Planet subplot. It felt forced. It didn't feel fleshed out at all. It felt like, Ryan Johnson was picking, like, he didn't stick with a topic. Oh, hello, kitty. He just decided, like, I feel like he had a lot of plot ideas, but he couldn't pick one and stick with it. It just it felt so unnecessary. It just felt so unnecessary, and I don't get it. Um, and then I'm also so sad that Finn, he could have saved the Resistance with on the Great Value brand Hoth Planet and destroyed the First Order cannon, and just sacrifice himself to you know put the Resistance in the right spot. But then Rose bailed him out, and it was just so sad, because he could have done so, like, that could have redeemed the movie. It could have redeemed him from trying to bail on the Resistance. It was just so sad. Okay, you need to move. Move. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, he was trying to bail, and he bailed on the Resistance multiple times, and he could have saved him. He could have, fixed it by uh, sacrificing himself. That would have been so amazing. But Rose just hurt them both by crashing into him, and then gave him a weak kiss. That was wasted potential. It was just wasted potential. And then Captain Phasma and Snoke. That's another prime example of wasted potential. Snoke and Phasma were both, like, built up to be really, really important villains, and they were just killed, like, randomly. It was so disappointing. But I guess I will give credit where some credit is due. The sacrifice play that Holdo made with destroying the Dreadnought by going into hyperspeed, that visual moment was just fantastic. It looked so cool. I think they just did a great job with that one. So overall, just a disappointing movie that I feel could have done so much better. So Last Jedi, sorry about you. You have to be F tier. Alright, now the last one, Rise of Skywalker. It's a decent end to the Skywalker saga. Exegol was kind of weird because, you need the Sith tracking device, but then the coordinates are just, like, shareable to anyone in the galaxy. It's like they just decided they're going to airdrop the coordinates. I don't get it. Whatever. They went through all that trouble scouring the galaxy to find the Sith tracking devices, and then they were just able to go there. It's just kind of like building plot devices just for the sake of runtime. Now, I thought it was obviously kind of strange to bring the Emperor back. It makes sense, just kind of like how it feels like they want to reuse the same plots because they're successful. So I get it. It makes sense, but I don't... Obviously, Sidious is supposed to be some all-powerful Sith being, and I kind of struggle with the idea that he's not just... I don't know. I feel like that was a bit much for him to be able to come back as this ghost sort of thing and then be pushed into a body and, whatever. He could defy death. It's just a bit much. I try not to question it as much as they should. And, it was a cop-out to Snoke being killed in the previous film, but whatever. The next thing, I was pretty sad that Finn kind of got pushed to the side. Like, his character was definitely not very important in this film. And, he had so much potential, with his previous attempts to desert the Resistance and all that stuff and deserting the First Order. He could have done so much to save the galaxy, and he could have played just a bigger part, but it's really disappointing that he just wasn't important anymore. He had such great potential, but just came up short almost every time. The final battle on Exegol, it was pretty cool, like watching all the ships destroy the First Order fleet, and you know, I thought that was pretty cool. But you know, and then the final battle with Rey and Ben against the Emperor, that was also just that was a pretty entertaining battle. But overall, it was just okay. I mean, I don't think it's not as memorable. It doesn't stand out. You know, it's not anything super special. So I think The Rise of Skywalker is a B tier. So that's my tier list. If you agree with it, don't agree with it, you think my picks are totally out of whack, let me know in the comment section. Remember to like the video, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.